Hey, today I want to talk to you about the currently available Housing Hazards Grant that was just announced from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So I've been advertising this grant and I've been getting a lot of questions because HUD has actually announced two grants in one grant announcement. So it is causing a bit of confusion. So the grant is you can request up to $10 million to either address lead-based paint housing hazards for up to $5 million or other housing hazards for another up to $5 million. So actually the best way to talk about this grant is to say you can request up to $5 million instead of saying you can request up to $10 million. So public housing authorities who have at least one non-RAD public housing development or at least one public housing development that's not under a signed CHAP agreement can apply for this housing hazard grant. So if you are a public housing authority and you have at least one public housing development not under a RAD and not under a signed CHAP agreement, you can request this grant funding. If you have lead-based paint hazards in your development. So to qualify for this lead-based paint grant, your public housing development would have had to be built before 1978. So if you have a public housing development that has been built before 1978 and you have lead-based paint findings, or you have a reason to believe you do have lead-based paint in your development, you can request up to $5 million for the lead-based paint side of this grant, okay? So if you have other housing hazards, and other housing hazards are asbestos, radon, fire hazards, like your stairwell, or you need fire hoses, or you have fire sprinklers that are in disrepair, you can request up to $5 million. You can also have carbon monoxide issues. So carbon monoxide, this is not the carbon monoxide detector grant like you can apply for in the Emergency Safety and Security Grant. This grant will allow you, if you have fuel burning devices, such as a gas burning stove, HUD will allow you to request grant funding to purchase new electric stoves. If you want to keep your gas stoves, because maybe they're new, maybe you just purchased them, they will allow you to purchase new ventilation hoods over the stoves to provide proper ventilation. So if you have mold, you have some sort of water intrusion that has caused mold in your public housing units, then you can request funding to test for the mold, just to be sure that you do have mold. Once that's confirmed, then you can remediate the mold, take it out wherever mold is occurring in your development. So these housing hazards, you can pay your contractor to get rid of the housing hazards, and then, this is the fun part, you can now, I like to say renovate the space, but really it's just to put the space back where it was. So if any of these housing hazards contaminated your ceiling, your walls, your floors, your doors, your windows, then you can renovate that space. So in essence, it's kind of like getting a renovation job, because you can remove the hazard and then renovate that space. So you can get new walls and new floorings and new windows and new doors and all these new things if the hazard contaminated that space. In addition to that, you can also relocate the residents if they will need relocation. Once you disturb these hazards in their unit, they will need to be in a safe space. So you can relocate them to another vacant public housing authority unit, or to a hotel or motel or some other location. You can relocate your residents for up to 30 days. Another thing that you can do, since these are health hazards and some of them do have a bit of technical knowledge, what you can do, you can also consult with and pay for a technical assistant to assist you while you are remediating the hazard, testing for the hazard, remediating the hazard, renovating your space, relocating your residents, relocating them back into their units. All of those things you can pay for a technical assistant to be there with you to help you through the various phases. So this grant is for 4 years. Remember, you can request up to $5 million for the lead-based paint component of the grant, and you can request an additional up to $5 million for these other housing hazards, and that's radon, asbestos, fire hazard, carbon monoxide issues. So I would highly encourage you to apply if you are a public housing authority and you need assistance to remediate these issues that you're having: lead-based paint, mold, asbestos, radon, carbon monoxide, and fire hazards. Request the grant funding from HUD. It's for 4 years. It pays for a lot. It pays for everything. And then you can have healthy units that you have renovated that area that had the issue. And you can provide healthier, safer units for your residents.